Now, some of you might remember that we had Amanda Mombourquette as a guest on Telile 24/7 not that long ago, and that Amanda was the executive director of the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce until mid-March. However, she is now back with the Chamber, even though she has started a new job with the Nova Scotia Community College, because Amanda has been asked to rejoin the Chamber as a special advisor to help them out through the COVID-19 crisis. So we're going to speak to Amanda Mombourquette right now and also get her to put on her other hat with the Village on the Canal Association, or VOCA, in St. Peter's, to talk about how that community in particular has been dealing with the COVID-19 issue. Let's speak to Amanda right now. So we're very glad to have Amanda Mombourquette joining us once again on Telile 24/7. And this is a very, very different time from the last time we had you in because, for one thing, we were doing this in the Telile studio, and you were doing this from home right now, both of us. And for another thing, you were just finishing up your time as executive director of the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce, and now all of a sudden find yourself back in giving them a hand. Could you give me a sense on just how that part of it all came about and what exactly your role is now?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I finished up my official term with the chamber on March 20th. But obviously, in the middle of all of that, business have been really struck hard by the pandemic situation we're experiencing. And so, after chatting with the executive and the staff, we came to an agreement that I would provide some advocacy support during this time because, frankly, it's unprecedented. We couldn't have predicted this. How impactful it would be and how much work there would be involved to try to keep businesses abreast of things. So it's been the long, slow goodbye with the executive director position, but it's kind of nice because I'm really happy to be able to continue to support them in however I can. The Chamber's such an incredibly valuable organization, and it's just so much better when we're businesses working together. We're much stronger that way.
Is there anything that the chamber itself does for businesses or provides for businesses at a time like this? Because I do understand that there were some insurance plans that were set up for businesses that were members of the chamber. Does anything like that really come into play at a time like this when there's an unexpected shutdown? What can you tell me about what exactly is available in that regard?
But the Chamber does offer a group health insurance option for businesses with even the smallest of businesses. I know we had it at the Chamber ourselves, and there's only 2 or 3 of us working there from time to time, right? So what that does is it allows employees to have access to group health insurance plans, which is an extremely important tool. But what it also includes now is a teledoc option. And that gives you access 24/7 to physician expertise by phone. I'm really excited to see that there's training being offered now online through the Chamber, as well as FemPower webinar coming up tomorrow. So lots of really great services to help businesses get through this.
Well, with that in mind, can you give me a sense on what you're hearing from various business people that you're talking to around the General Strait? Some of these people that you would have seen over and over again in your previous life, but what are people saying to you about the difficulties that they're having with the social distancing protocols in right now?
Yeah, well, I think one thing I'm hearing loud and clear is that there's still a lot of confusion. Businesses are still trying to figure out what appropriate steps they need to be taking. Some have it figured out more than others, but every business is different, and so people are still struggling a little bit with that. I think the self-assessment tool that the provincial government has provided is helpful. But there are organizations like the Chamber out there where if you need to bounce ideas off of, or you need to ask direct questions that are specific to your situation, I would encourage businesses to do that. I'm also hearing that there's lots of businesses who feel like they are falling through the cracks a bit. So there are restrictions on government programs, and they feel like they've been excluded from them. It was really fantastic yesterday to see government announce the changes to the Canada Emergency Response Benefit and eligibility and all that. We've been able to, in working with MP Mike Kellaway, identify that if you're a business owner, you can be laid off from your business um, and receive the CERB, but you can also, for the business that is still running and the employees that are still working, you can also access the wage subsidy, 75% wage subsidy. So there's been some confusion around, if I access one program, can I not get the other? And that kind of thing. People are still feeling left out by the Canada Emergency Business Account, the $40,000 interest-free loan from the federal government, because of the restrictions on payroll. So you need to be earning between 50,000, or you need to have paid between 50,000 and $1 million in payroll in 2019 to qualify for that. And that, of course, excludes a lot of the small and micro businesses in our region, businesses who contract out work as opposed to pay salaries. So there are some tweaks like that I think, collectively we need to be working with government to figure out what's the best solution for these businesses, who are really the backbone of our economy. And that's the message that I've sent to government officials. Although we appreciate the rapid response, we need to continue to work to make sure that we assist as many businesses as possible through this difficult time. One thing I wanted to mention, Adam, in particular, is that I was involved in a conversation this week with the Atlantic Provinces Economic Council, where they presented information related to the impact in Canada, but also specifically in the Atlantic region and Nova Scotia. And APEC is calling this, and I think quite rightly, the Great Shutdown. And their discussion was, related to the impacts that are happening now. So, for instance, I believe Nova Scotia has been among the hardest hit of the Atlantic provinces in terms of job losses. I think about 25,000 last month alone. Youth and women have taken the brunt of that, I'm sure, for a variety of reasons. And we're projecting right now that Canada as a country will have had a 9% reduction in GDP, which is the highest reduction since the 1960s. So this is a major, major issue, obviously, that's going to be with us for a long time. And the reason I'm mentioning all of this is because I want to be really clear about, the policy measures that government is taking on this. And we appreciate the financial supports and the liquidity. But at the end of the day, we all need to be aware that the containment strategies being announced by government are the most important economic policy. It will determine the success of many businesses, because it will determine the duration and severity of this great shutdown. And so, as a Chamber of Commerce, former ED, it's difficult for me to be saying, stay home, but at the end of the day, you really need to be doing that as much as possible. And so, the duration of this thing is key. The impacts will increase if it starts to drag on and on and on into the summer and into the fall.
Well, let me ask you a bit about the idea that it could drag on well into July and August. And I want to speak to two aspects of the local economy that are really key, and especially in terms of seasonal workers, the tourism industry and the fishing and seafood processing industry as well, too. We have quite a few people that depend on both of those. Are they starting to speak to you and starting to issue some concern? What are you hearing from either of those?
Well, I think there's been widespread concern in those industries. Certainly, I mean, this has been top of mind for these folks. I mean, the bottom line is that our economy will only recover in so much as the economies of our main trading partners recover, right? So we need to be able to export. We need to be able to accept visitors from regions. We will only recover as quickly as our main trading partners, and of course, the U.S. is a big part of that. And so what we're seeing happening there is extremely alarming to many in the business community, including the fishing and tourism industries. And there's absolutely real concern. And I think some of the supports that have been announced will absolutely be beneficial to the folks who were on the front lines of those industries, in terms of the CERB access and other things, like that, in terms of being able to access that benefit in particular, should your EI run out when you would normally be working, right? So, I think we're seeing some care being taken to protect workers in those industries, but from a business, strictly a business perspective, it's a real concern when you start to see your markets evaporate and your visitors stay home. So, yeah.
Let me ask you, just kind of picking up on that, what's your sense on how local businesses have been able to adapt over the last little bit? And we've seen, in particular, in the food service industry, restaurants and such, they've been able to convert to takeout, but not all of them have been able to do that, and some have shut down indefinitely.
Yeah.
We're seeing the differences in how supermarkets handle their businesses, of course, with social distancing and what have you. What's your sense, just kind of looking out on the landscape, as to how businesses around here are doing in terms of adapting to the social distancing protocols and the change in tide over here?
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer that necessity is the mother of invention, and nobody is more inventive than a small business owner, making sure that their business survives the storm. And I have been absolutely shocked to see the level of compassion and inventiveness of the innovations coming from businesses, as they are, number one, working to protect the health and safety of their customers and their employees, and number two, ensuring their own business continuity by making changes to their business model. And so, I see them. I see so many who are approaching this situation with those two lenses: health and safety and business continuity. And it's just amazing. So some of the examples, I mean, we're seeing what's happening at the groundswell. It's like a contactless purchase system with their takeout option. And we're seeing that, grocery stores like Foodland and many others in that are making sure that there's directional travel for customers. I mean, these are serious measures that are being taken, that are absolutely costing the business money in many cases, but they are being done out of the concern for their customers and out of the concern for their employees. And it's really, it's in times of crisis, look for the helpers. And it really goes to show that these small businesses are committed to the survival of their community, but also to the survival of their businesses. It's fantastic to see lots of bright lights out there.
Now, that's wonderful. You
Yeah.
mentioned Foodland just a moment ago, and I wanted to put on one of your other hats, if you could, one of the
Sure.
hats with the Village on the Canal Association in St. Peter's,
Mhm.
because that's a community that had really been growing and expanding economically. A lot of new businesses setting up there. All of a sudden, the brakes are being put on. What's your sense on how that particular community and the surrounding communities are doing in this time?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Adam, I was driving around with a great big pair of grand opening scissors in my car all over this community for a period of months, and it was wonderful. And we're seeing, businesses like the Bredor Lakes Inn have changed their business model. We're seeing that, when you walk into the B&E general store now, the plexiglass is up, so precautions are being taken. And it's definitely hard on business right now. I think, from my perspective, with Village on the Canal Association, with VOCA, I'm really concerned about our festival season. Lobster Fest is around the corner, and Nicholas Denny's Days, the Swim the Canal event, and these festivals drove so much economic activity in our community. I'm really concerned about the momentum that we lose. Should we have to skip some of those this year, and the reality is we most likely will have to skip some of them. Where I can tell you those conversations are happening right now, and decisions are being made with regards to festivals that are we're supposed to start in late June, early July, right through to October. And so, this is going to be a rougher year, but I think at the end of the day, when you look at the resiliency of the business community and the commitment that the commitment that community members have to supporting that community, those businesses, I do think that there's a strong recovery that's going to happen afterwards. We need to be making smart decisions now to protect the health and safety of everyone. But like I said, this containment strategy is our most important policy, and it will determine how long we need to shut down. So I'm pretty optimistic that these pieces will, these festivals will come back, hopefully stronger than ever, right?
I hope so too, and I personally would be just not feeling right if I didn't get to take part in Swim the Canal this year.
Right?
So, yeah, it just doesn't feel like the summer without it in St. Peter's and the surrounding area. So,
Exactly.
but on a more serious note, just as we're heading into the home stretch here, Amanda, you mentioned the idea that this is one of the biggest hits that Canada's GDP has taken in several decades, and I just wonder, where do folks like you and the Chamber of Commerce and the local business community look to in terms of trying to deal with something like this? Because it seems that the last time that there was any kind of situation where there was any kind of an economic impact and we saw businesses closing was when there was a chance that the Point Tupper paper mill might not be sold and might not reopen. This nearly 9 years ago.
Right.
But this seems to be expanding on that exponentially. So I just wonder, do you folks in the Strait Area business community look to times like that? Do you look outside the community to different parts of the country or even the world? Where do you turn to for some thoughts and some advice on how to be able to get through a time like this?
Well, that's a giant question, but I mean, I can tell you right off the bat that I continue to believe that we're stronger when we work together. We can't look inside of our own borders for full recovery opportunities. That's just not the way it works. We have small IT businesses in this region that depend on the export of skills and services. We have lobster exporters. We have so many tourism providers. Like I said earlier, Adam, we will only recover as quickly as our major trading partners recover, and that's the reality. In terms of what to do to get there, I think the approach needs to be that businesses are working with government to create the best possible conditions for success as we go forward. I'll be looking forward to observing and discussing, potential stimulus activity with our elected representatives in the future. I'm quite sure the Chamber will be heavily involved in that as well. And the trick is that that's got to come at the right time. It's got to come. If it comes too soon, then we will burn all the rocket fuel too quickly. And if it comes too late, then we'll be behind the 8 ball in terms of our recovery. So I do think that business and government needs to work hand in hand together. And I also will say that from my experience at the Chamber, it was really useful to know that not just our 380 members were working together, but also that we were connected at the Atlantic level to the Atlantic Chamber of Commerce and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. And every day, these are the organizations that we work with to influence policy, but also to get new ideas in terms of how to support the business community, and those regional and national connections, not just through chambers, but also through organizations like the Cape Breton Partnership and government and informal groups. Those are going to be critical, and I think in terms of our ability to continue to be innovative and to come out of this slump on the other end.
That's well said, Amanda. And we have covered a lot of ground here in just a short time, and I really appreciate your help here. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add about all of this just before we wrap up?
I think we need to be aware of the risks, I guess, that are coming along with the policy decisions of government, and I would just urge our elected representatives to, you know, to beware of those risks. So beware the stimulus in terms of the timing, things like, I think one of the biggest risks we're facing is that if this shutdown is prolonged over a long period of time, then you know there are lots of businesses who are just simply not going to make it, and so we need to be paying attention to those kinds of risks. I think we need to be watchful of the slower containment with our trading partners, as I mentioned, and that um, we don't want to be overly optimistic in our planning. We need to be realistic in our planning, but not without hope. So if we can put the hope together with the plan, then I think that's still going to be the way forward for many small businesses, but also for governments in general.
All right. Well, we hope that there are hopeful times ahead for all of us, and especially for the business community. And we're glad to get your point of view on all of this. Amanda Mombourquette, thank you for joining us once again on Telile 24/7.
You're welcome. Thank you.